Well, how do you think I feel about what's been going on? Let's talk about it. Well, how do you think I feel about what's been going on? Let's talk about it. Well, how do you...
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about it. And in this video, I want to share with everyone what happened to me at this Kitchener-Waterloo courthouse and how I was labeled a vexatious litigant and ordered to pay $35,000. And leading up from start to finish, you guys are not going to believe what this court did to me. There's obviously a pattern of abuse that's happening. I'm going to get into every single detail that not only do I need, but I want the public to hear. To be honest, how this court has treated me, there should be an investigation, right? Either from the RCMP or the Chief Justice of Canada, because there's an obvious pattern taking beatings behind closed doors from the judges, from these judges that I've gone before, from these court staff. Collectively, you know, these people do not follow the rules. They accept the opposition's lawyer, this lawyer and client, who they allow them to file their materials late. I've lost count of how many documents affidavits have been unsigned, uncommissioned. You know, you've seen what they did to me at this family court trial, and I'm convinced that every proceeding after that is being consulted with that trial judge. That's that local senior judge there up at the Kitchener-Waterloo Court, and it is very shocking and disturbing, the evidence I have that I want to share with everyone from start to finish. Okay, if you guys haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, because my story is worthy for this country and the world to hear, and the mistreatment that I've endured, the abuse I've endured from what's supposed to be a fair and impartial these court proceedings. It was far from it. So I'm going to just get right into the video. I was labeled a vexatious litigant and ordered to pay $35,000 from Justice Ian Smith out of the Kitchener-Waterloo Courthouse. This judge took 98 days to render his decision, and you know, he made comments in his endorsement, to be honest, is very contradictory to the evidence and the facts. Like, straight up, this judge put on the endorsement, "I refuse to make payment." Well, my bank accounts have been frozen since September of 2024. This lawyer, John David Ekping-Young, who let me just say this right now. This lawyer, who has been telling the courts I refuse to make payment, he has made my life a living hell. The bogus court costs this lawyer's put together, the friggin' bogus perjury and fraudulent comments and documents that this lawyer's gotten away with. This lawyer's been under an investigation by the Law Society since June 2022. He was ordered to pay back $46,000 to one of his clients. Well, I've been taking abuse from this lawyer for 3 years. These unhinged, psychotic emails all hours of the night that I'm going to be doing a separate video and sharing with everyone, the abuse and the harassment I've been taking. This lawyer has been manipulating the courts, telling them all these lies and misleading information, and really, he's pretty much talking about himself. This lawyer's been telling judges I refuse to make payment. Meanwhile, this lawyer's owed $46,000. He's been ordered to pay. Now he's under investigation, and he's about to be disciplined by the Law Society. And you guys see my previous videos, I have no confidence in the Law Society properly disciplining a lawyer who has probably, I would guess, a dozen complaints in the Law Society. If the Law Society was actually to share how many complaints I've ever been against this lawyer, whether dismissed or, you know, put to the next round or however it would be pretty staggering, I think, the number of complaints. So when I think about what they did to me in this courthouse, this family court matter I was unlawfully dragged through, this garnishment application I lost with the lawyer, this same lawyer, John David Ekping-Young, who filed no materials we went before Justice Martha Ann Tweedy, and she ignorantly put in her endorsement that she could not tell from the how financially distressed I am, with my bank accounts being frozen as long as they have been, this financial suffering. She said because I didn't fill out a Form 13. Form 13 is specifically in family law for spousal support, child support. I was never ordered to pay that. This courthouse is refusing to release the audio recordings to me where I can prove this ongoing pattern of abuse. And that day how distressed I was, at least from my own records. And then they refused to release Justice Ian Smith's his audio recordings. The crap that this court has put me through, I went before 3 judges, 3 senior judges that all allowed this lawyer to throw his application at my door. And the courts did that. This is what I'm talking about, the abuse. The courts allowed this lawyer to file a civil proceeding by leaving an application at my door. And then this lawyer puts in his affidavit that, the service person saw me through the peephole. First of all, I wasn't even home. Second of all, you can't see through those peepholes. Third, I have a wreath on the back of my door. This is the ongoing crap that this court has continued to give this unhinged lawyer a platform to abuse me with his client. Okay? So let's just get into this. Okay? I usually like to sometimes make these comments on the side, but in this video particularly, I'm going to go through exactly everything I wrote down from start to finish. And it's in the public's best interest to know this. Like I said, this is just absolutely insane. All of this court stuff stems from me being unlawfully dragged through the Kitchener-Waterloo courthouse and a family court matter I had absolutely no business in. I believe, like I said, all these court proceedings, they will not leave me alone. This lawyer, John David Ekpyong, and his client will not leave me alone. So let's get into this video. I was labeled a vexatious litigant against 2 people and ordered to pay $35,000. I'm about to expose a pattern of corruption in the Kitchener-Waterloo Superior Court. And it is very disturbing, this blatant and obvious pattern of judges and court staff disregarding the laws and the rules, accepting materials filed way late, accepting affidavits unsigned, uncommissioned, applications unsigned, uncommissioned. And then I don't think anybody anticipated me to share my experience like this in an honest and factual and calm manner. Let me just say this. I got nothing to gain to mislead or lie to the public. It is in the public's best interest to know what this court has been doing to me behind closed doors. I was labeled a vexatious litigant against John David Ekpyong and his client because I started 2 small claim matters, was the defamation and the damage I endured from the eviction. I found out about this vexatious litigant application at a Garnham-Schmidt hearing before Justice Bernadette Smith, who read it out in her endorsement. John David Ekpyong served me by leaving his application at my door and stated the process server saw me through the peephole when I wasn't even home. This is not proper service. Under Rule 16.0310, it states that you have to hand your application to an adult, not leave it at their front door and feed these court staff this crap. You saw me through the peephole. This was brought up to 3 senior judges in this Kitchener-Waterloo courthouse. First it was Justice Gibson, then it was Justice MacArthur, and then we went before Justice Ian Smith, who was the judge who labeled me a vexatious litigant. And to be honest, I suspect that Justice Gibson is leaving notes about me because there's an obvious pattern. These judges don't like me. They haven't even seen me. They haven't spoken to me. They all have this attitude that they don't like me. And I suspect that Justice Gibson's the one that has influence over this. If not, there's been discussion in the chambers. And again, it all comes back to this family court I had no business being in, that Justice Gibson handled. Justice Gibson ran this trial without the restraining order application ever being signed, the trial schedule endorsement form never being filled out, served, and filed, which is a rule. The trial record was served to me 8 days before the trial and not 20. I was given less than 24 hours notice for this trial, okay? There was a police report that the applicant, my ex, withheld for 2 years, admitting to the Waterloo police that I was a tenant. I was paying rent. I showed pictures of the basement to Justice Gibson, and I remember he said, this can be confirmed on the audio recording, when I showed him I was moving out, he said, oh, you could have been moving in. Like, it was a handicap match from day one, okay? And I believe it's pretty obvious that every judge has piggybacked off Justice Gibson's endorsement, his family court restraining order endorsement, which I was unlawfully dragged through. And there needs to be an investigation, but no one wants to bring it up. And that's why I'm doing these videos too, because I need the public's help to getting the story out, to hearing me out, and to listen to the truth, to listen to what they don't want the public to know this. You know, it's very frustrating, to say the least. When I asked Justice Smith about this rule, this motion, he kind of snickered and he said he didn't know. When I brought this up at the trial before Justice Smith, and I asked him, I said this rule, like, this isn't proper service. He literally snickered. He laughed and said, and I asked him about the rules, and he said he did not know. And this is another reason why this court is refusing to release the audio recordings, because, let's be honest, that's just bullshit. They are withholding public records to a person who was part of this matter, and they don't want to give it to me because, and it's this manager at the courthouse. It's this court staff that's just been giving me nothing but problems. So if the public had access to the video or the audio of this motion, then this would be confirmed. I asked John David Ekpin-Young to not proceed with the case and allow me to drop the 2 small claims cases and the divisional court appeal. He refused, okay? I tried to drop the small claims defamation case in 2024, and they refused unless I gave into paying $8,000 for a 3-page defense. Allegedly what was paid to the lawyer. And see, this is the problem. Now that my ex and this lawyer have been awarded $60,000, they get the impression they can get away with abusing the courts. They admitted on an affidavit they only paid $7,000. They ignorantly and they foolishly submitted a fraudulent bill of $160,000 that the trial judge entertained, that the prosecutor's office in the Kitchener-Waterloo Courthouse stayed the charges, refused to investigate. Waterloo Police, Halton Region Police all refused to investigate, and the Law Society refuses to investigate potentially Canada's most corrupted family court case in Canadian history. Okay? I mentioned to John David Ekpin-Young about my civil lawsuit and was pending, and that this could hurt it, and I would pay the court costs if awarded any cost to his client. And she's basically said she did not care and she wanted to proceed. I've been saying this from day one. This is not about collecting money, getting money. This is about putting so much damage and so much abuse on my life to the point where I'm homeless and I'm bankrupt. And I'm telling you guys right now, I'm not far from it. I'm not far from being bankrupt, and I'm not far from being homeless because of the abuse that my ex and this lawyer continue to get away with these courts. And these judges and these court staff have been nothing but aiding and abetting by accepting unsigned, uncommissioned documents, unsigned, uncommissioned applications, filings late, not proper service. The list goes on. Like, motion was scheduled for December 19th, 2004. John David Ekpin-Young states on his affidavit of service, he conferred with me this date. That is a bold lie, and he never did. Okay? I sent John David Ekpin-Young an email asking to reschedule the date because it was too close to Christmas. Like, they won't leave me alone. He ignored that email. On December 19th, 2024, we get before Justice Gibson. And he tells us, we get there like at 9 in the morning, 9:30. Justice Gibson tells us to return at 3 p.m. because John David Ekping-Young did not confirm his motion, which is a rule I was surprised that was actually even followed considering how many were ignored. On the same day, I'm almost sick to my stomach. I'm not even joking. The anxiety, the anxiousness I felt leading up to that, and then especially see Justice Gibson again, the same judge who just railroaded me with his family court BS matter, telling us to return at 3. This has been nothing but psychological torture dealing with this judge. The only judge in Canada who has his training is judicial training from the Canadian Armed Forces, and that's the problem I'm dealing with, to be honest. This judge has the impression he can do whatever he wants with no consequences, and he's not far off, because if you look at what has been done to me, all these other judges that I've gone before refuse to go over this family court endorsement. That's riddled with judicial error, law and facts, like straight up. Justice Gibson tells us we're in at 3. And he said when we get back at 3, he tells us that he doesn't have enough time and reschedules the motion for January 9th, 2025. This is on the same day I'm scheduled to appear for this private prosecution against John David Ekping-Young and his client, who were charged with perjury and submitting fraudulent documents. You see the games they're playing with me? They know. This court knows that I have that date scheduled. What do? They schedule it on the same day, just to screw with me a little bit more. The trial coordinator's office and John David Ekping-Young refuse to allow me to change the date. January 9th, 2025, we get before Justice Michael MacArthur, who seemed agitated with me before even saying anything to me. And I'm convinced there was notes about me from Justice Gibson, because this judge, my materials were spot on, and I will be doing a video and sharing with everyone all the materials that I've ever put forth to these cases, and you guys can see. You guys can judge yourself. And you can see my materials, and you can see what was ignored. This judge, Justice MacArthur, he went on a rant about how a refugee in surgery, waiting for surgery in an Ontario hospital, any other party could resolve, and that John David Ekping and I couldn't. This judge is getting mad at me because this lawyer will not allow me to drop anything. He won't let me to make payments. And I couldn't believe this comment. I'll share that with you guys. I got the transcript. How this judge went on a rant about how a refugee in this other lawsuit, whatever, they can resolve things. That has absolutely nothing to do with my case or anything else. In fact, what was the point of bringing up a refugee in surgery? All that said to me is that this is why our healthcare is so screwed up. A big reason. When you have refugees eating up our hospital, okay, and I understand sometimes it's critical, we all need help, we shouldn't deny them health care, but then you wonder why our healthcare system is so screwed up, and this is part of the reason. And on a side note, I actually heard something interesting recently, and that was about an airline person, lady, and how she was going on how much she witnesses refugees that are like 8-9 months pregnant, hopping on a plane, coming to Canada, giving birth to their child, and then taking off and not paying the bill. So I just don't understand what this judge's rant with this refugee and the other side. This lawyer will not let me stop anything. This lawyer, he knows I got a multi-million-dollar civil lawsuit happening. I'm saying, please, let me drop all my cases. I let me go to work. They will not let me make payments, and then they're going to stand there ignorantly, stomping their feet, telling these judges that I refuse to make payment. And then the judge said it was about if taxpayers knew about all the time allocated to this case, how upset they would be, and this, that, and this, that. Well, you know what? This lawyer doesn't show up to court. He doesn't file his documents, okay? He doesn't resolve anything. He is an unethical lawyer, okay? So yeah, the taxpayers would be pissed off. And this is, you know what, maybe this is part of the reason why I'm doing these videos. Because the taxpayers need to know the abuse that I took from this Kitchener-Waterloo Court and what a waste of tax dollars was allocated. And again, it all comes back to this family court that had absolutely no business ever being in. And I was dragged through family court for 3 years on a restraining order application never signed. You guys know the story. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. This judge, Justice MacArthur, had a pre-written endorsement, had a pre-written 1,000-word endorsement, okay? And when he finished talking about this endorsement, this judge threw me out. This judge had a pre-written 1,000-word endorsement, okay? And that seemed shady, okay? The fact that he couldn't talk to us first and analyze it. This is what I mean. They're not reading my materials. They're just making these decisions based off of notes that judges are writing and court staff are writing about me. And they're being prejudiced towards me, straight up. This is prejudice. You're not giving me a fair chance at any of these cases. When you treat me this way, and you know, between January 9th and March 21st, I tried to resolve everything with John David Ekping-Young. They refused every time. Again, they're clearly just trying to ruin my life. On March 21st, we get before Justice Ian Smith. John David Ekping-Young, again, like always, did not confirm his attendance, and that is Rule 37.10.1. All motions must be confirmed before they start. 3 motions before 3 senior judges. Okay? Before this motion started, John David Ekping-Young hands me a motion of contempt for family court. And the materials are mainly full of lies and gaslighting. Okay? We're going in for this bullshit vexatious litigant motion that they won't let me drop. They just want to friggin' beat me more behind closed doors because they have the impression they got their judges in the back pocket. And this fucking bonehead gives me a motion of contempt. And I will be doing a separate video about the materials in there and the fucking bullshit that this lawyer has put in that application. And he served me 3 times. Okay, you guys have probably seen in the other video on my mother's birthday, a few days before Mother's Day, on this day, they were never signed. This is harassment. And then you guys wonder why I'm frustrated. You know, and it's like, I can already imagine the ones out there that's watching this and they're criticizing me, you know, and what this court allowed this lawyer to get away is an absolute disgrace to this country. It's an absolute disgrace to our judicial system, and it's a fucking disgrace to how our tax dollars are being wasted and mismanaged by court staff and judges that I've gone before. You know, the hearing starts. The judge, right, because he's got notes about me. Justice Ian Smith ignores that rule, and he, it's a fucking rule. Part of my language, it's a rule. You must confirm your attendance for your motion for it to commence. And when this has been an ongoing problem for 3 years, okay? And that's why when Justice MacArthur was like, oh, if the taxpayers knew about how much money was being allocated, yeah, the fuck, we should get down to dollar for dollar what these judges and court staff have been paid. Because I can fucking tell you guys right now, it's in the 6 figures. There was probably over $200,000 allocated to these cases that I could never get out of. All the offers I sent. The hearing starts. I tell Justice Smith I did not feel comfortable nor feel safe being unrepresented as I could not hire a lawyer because John David Ekping-Young has frozen all of my bank accounts. Justice Smith goes to his chambers and returns after 30 minutes. This judge forces me to proceed and represent myself. Right? I guess he's got to stick to the notes. He's got to stick to the plan to destroy me, right? Because this is what they did to me. Then I am forced, as a respondent, I was told to start the case. Is it not the applicant's role to present the case to the judge first? Right? So I was so confused. And I wasn't prepared to ask questions. And, you guys are going to see the examples I'm about to give, why I did not feel safe or comfortable proceeding with this, and what this judge allowed and what was presented to this judge. So right there, it was off to another more shadiness. Asking me, the respondent, to start the case and start asking questions. The applicant goes on the stand and is caught lying about not speaking with my family, then shortly admits to having my grandfather at her home multiple times. The amount of lies, the amount of perjury, the amount of fraud, the amount of fraudulent documents that this woman has gotten away with her lawyer is so staggering. There needs to be an investigation. Straight up. Okay? This woman boldly said on the stand that she hasn't spoken to my family in 2 years, and I knew for a fact that my grandpa likes to show up at her house, because he's done it many times in the past, years ago when I was kicking around there. And then she admitted, because my aunt told me, that she still talks to my family. This woman, she just won't let go. Okay? I tried several times to end the small claims case in 2024. All refused unless they gave into extortion. $8,000 for a 2-page defense. While on the stand, John David Ekping-Young gives me a copy of an email I sent to the Finch Crown Attorney's Office in 2016, which was neither an exhibit. So while I'm on the stand, I'm being questioned and I'm completely surprised. This guy, I'm still trying to figure out where the hell did this lawyer get an email that I had sent to the Crown's office. This was never an exhibit in any court proceeding. And how does this lawyer get that? That was very, and the fact that this judge allowed it, Justice Smith accepted this email and he labeled it as an Exhibit 5. Right? That was absolutely bullshit, allowing this to happen. And it's just another example of the corruption I'm dealing with. This document was never presented before. I never seen this document. I had no time to review it. And then Ekping-Young starts asking me all these questions. I mentioned to Justice Smith about my lawsuit against the police. I showed proof. I have been trying to cancel the small claim matters. I have been trying to make payments to the court costs. I mentioned about my mother's case, the progress, the future lawsuit. I showed this lawyer, I showed this judge all these exhibits, and I'm going to be getting into a separate video of showing all of my submissions to the court. Mentioned to Justice Smith about my mental health, Justice Tweedy, Justice Gibson, Justice Bingham. Not, they're all, this is why this is a huge reason why men's mental health is as bad as it is, because you've got these court proceedings, that men are getting abused by these courts. And I mentioned to this Justice Smith with my witness I've got a witness for all these things, for all these appearances, and I'm so thankful for that, because I got someone that can back me up on everything I said is the truth. And that person was in the courtroom that day, and I mentioned to the judge how I don't want to get close to her or other people because of how bad my mental health has gotten and the increase of suicidal thoughts. This judge did not care. When he gave his decision, he did not give two shits about my mental health, and neither did these other judges. And that's just the honest truth. If you look at how they treat me, what they put on paper, the fact that I was unlawfully dragged to family court, the fact that you got judges blocking out transcripts, deleting and altering endorsements, blatantly lying on endorsements, that it's making statements that cannot be backed up by any evidence or facts that were actually submitted. It's pretty bad. I lost 3 jobs because of this lawyer, my ex, and what these judges did. It's fucking horrible, to be honest. That's just the honest truth. And, it's like, this is just straight up corruption. When you got judges doing these type of things, this is corruption. And all this court is doing is trying to bury me, so I cannot go after them. They want to label me a vexatious litigant when I'm not. That's what all they're trying to do. They're just trying to silence me. And that's what I'm convinced. And I'm convinced that Justice Gibson has had an influence every part of the way, or mostly along the way, or there's been notes that's been very firm about me. Then that's just what I gather. My intuition is telling me when you look at everything on paper and what I went through. John David Ekpyung's closing arguments. He handed me and the judge a predetermined outcome, label me a vexatious litigant, and demand I pay $15,000 with interest. This is more of the bullshit that this lawyer's been doing. This is manipulating a judge. This lawyer, his closing arguments, hands me a piece of paper, and on that paper I'll share with you guys, is saying the manipulation and the dictation, dictating to this judge to what to do was fucking bullshit. Justice Smith said he would reserve his decision, then looked at the applicant and nodded his head to her as she's already won. This is why, another reason why we need cameras in courtrooms, and the public needs all their audio recording that they request. Because when I saw this judge nod his head, with his head was almost in his chest, and he nodded to her, I looked at, my witness, and that accompanied me, and I was in shock. I was like, he just nodded his head and said they won, pretty much, it seemed like. I believe this was another rigged proceeding, forced to represent myself, several rules ignored. I had already lost the case before it started. I got Justice Ian Smith's endorsement here that he took 98 days to render. And to be honest, this could have took 98 seconds and been over with at the very beginning, with the rules ignored, the laws ignored, throwing an application at my door and dragging me through court for 8 months and refusing to let me drop the case or make payments. Okay. On his endorsement, which can be found on Can Lead, by discussion, number 40. I open my discussion of the issues by observing that the state of the record and the conduct of both the respondent and the applicant's counsels have made the task piercing together and understanding the history of this matter and drawing conclusions based on that history. Unnecessarily difficult, both the respondent and Mr. Ekpyung appear to believe it is acceptable behavior to persistently be rude to one another, to speak over each other, to fail to follow the court's directions, and to fail to show the court respect. Neither assisted the court by preparing a complete, intelligible record. Okay? This is a lawyer. I'm a self-represent person doing the best I can and forced to go to all these proceedings without a lawyer because this snake of a lawyer who got noted in default in small claims because he never filed a defense, he got noted in default for that small claims matter on October 18th, and the same day, that's when he started this application. He's a sour old man, okay, who is bitter, and he's just out for blood. He is just out for blood. John David Ekpyung, he's from Africa, and he's got blood for me. I believe, I'm questioning his credentials. You look at what the law says, how he's behaving, all this bullshit he's gotten away with. I want to know where he got his credentials. I want to know where John David Ekpyung went to law school in Africa. I want to know when this lawyer wrote, like the dates he wrote the test, because it's just his credentials are very suspicious. Okay. So here this judge is making these statements, and you know what? I can't. I'm not like I want to read all these. I don't know if I can get through all of them because when I read crap like that already, scolding the lawyer who can't conduct himself properly, like 42. Nevertheless, I have been able to come to an understanding of the history of litigation between the respondent and the applicant and her counsel, and to be able to draw the conclusions which follow. Like many of my colleagues who have been involved in this matter, I deemed it necessary to comment on the conduct of counsel for the applicant. That conduct is relevant only insofar as it informs an assessment of conduct of the alleged vexatious litigant. The respondent emphasizes counsel's conduct, including he says he acts dishonest as a part of justification for his continued litigation in this matter. 42. I do not accept this argument. While it is clear that the respondent and Mr. X dislike one another intensely, that is some of the counsel's conduct will be irritating to the respondent. I am satisfied that the respondent's pursuit to litigation against the applicant and counsel is motivated desire to harass the applicant and lesser the extent her counsel. Obviously, no misconduct or negligence on the part of the applicant's counsel could justify the use of legal process this way. It is abuse of the court's process. This is abuse of the court's process. When you got judges making these type of comments on here, this is just fucking bullshit. I'm sorry. When I read this is like 43. In my view, the evidence establishes that the respondent is a vexatious litigant. The factors laid out, Lang, Mercer, which I addressed in the order, Henry J. listed them, all play in this application, some to greater extent than others. Okay, right? I'm a vexatious litigant. They started the family court matter. I was straight up illegally evicted by a fucking psychotic, unhinged lawyer. Okay? I was illegally evicted. A police report determined that the homeowner, the applicant, my ex, admitted for those 3 short months I lived in there, I was a tenant. Okay? I filed the landlord-tenant thing. That whole thing with that whole tribunal was absolutely bullshit. Okay? There was 3 hearings because this lawyer never filed any materials, causing all these delays. Okay? All this shit they talked about me, smuggling cocaine, they say I stalked her. They had a bag of perks that was actually the applicant's friend, Louise. Rest in peace, she's no longer here. But to be honest, those were her pills. And they try to, the weed, you should see the weed that this, my ex was growing in her backyard. They planted like a case of wine. All this bullshit they said. They started a defamation lawsuit. And then later on, I started the damages to my fucking property from this illegal eviction. All my shit got fucking trashed. I lost work. I had to pay for movers. Like, I started that. Okay. And then I appealed the landlord-tenant decision in the divisional court. Big whoop-de-doo. Everybody is allowed to exercise this. How is that vexatious? 43. Okay, 43A. The respondent has brought at least 3 proceedings, the landlord-tenant and both small claims cases, based on the same facts and largely the same issue. His allegedly improper eviction from the respondent's home, while the legal issues raised in each of these cases may be perfectly identical, there is substantial overlap between the cases. The factual issues are of the respondent's focus, in which they are the root of the eviction and raised again by him in all the proceedings. This all started with a fucking illegal eviction. I'm sorry. You know what? I apologize for swearing so much in this video, but this is the frustration I'm dealing with. You got these statements on an endorsement that is false. That it all just, when I'm reading this is not true. The small claims launched by the respondent appear to be frivolous without merit. Okay. This is especially so the defamation claim. Insofar as it rests on statements made in court, the motion was to withdraw the application for a temporary restraining order heard and dismissed by J. Walters, also clearly without merit. This judge doesn't know what he's talking about when he's commenting on these things, because all he's doing is piggybacking off of these endorsements that judges and adjudicators intentionally made statements that were going to hurt me and that were very contradictory to the evidence and the facts submitted. C, I have already said that I'm satisfied that the proceedings brought by the respondent are intended to harass the applicant to lesser extent her counsel. Respondent's anti-empathy for both the applicant and counsel is obvious. I accept the evidence that her effort to garnish the respondent's wages was a catalyst for the respondent to attempt to extend time to appeal the restraining order. Concluded, blah, blah, blah. This got a pattern of harassment. These fucking bozos would never let me out of any court proceeding. This judge, and I'm going to get into all the exhibits that I sent to this judge, because you know what? When you look at my materials, it's obvious this judge skimmed through them and didn't read them, because this is extremely contradictory to the facts and the evidence. I'm just going to hop down to F here because this one stands out and this one really bothers me. The respondent has failed to pay any cost awards made in favor of the applicant. Indeed, as already observed, her attempt to enforce cost awards appear to be motivated some of his conduct as a vexatious litigant. Certainly, the cost award against respondent have no deterrent effect. That upsets me so much when I read that, because this judge had seen about 4 emails that had sent to this judge, to this lawyer, begging and pleading to let me make payments. This is the shit I'm talking about. That I can't even read all of this, because you've got a judge that's going to sit there and say I refuse to pay costs when he knows damn well the exhibits that I submitted to him were multiple emails trying to close these matters, trying to cancel it. They would never let me out of it. This has been nothing but harassing me, dragging me through family court, starting a garnishment 72 days after the court order with zero communication, starting a vexatious litigant knowing I have a multi-million-dollar lawsuit on the table trying to pay them. They still want to proceed. This lawyer's threatening me that he's going to send the sheriff to my place and take everything because I refuse to make payments. He's still threatening me to put me in contempt in motion, and he's threatening me with a fucking defamation lawsuit. This lawyer will not leave me alone. My ex will not leave me alone. She just got finished with a high-profile divorce in the Waterloo courthouse. Okay? A year or two before I got in there. This is a fucking business for this woman. She's got $5,000 a month from her ex. She knows how to work the books. I helped her renovate that home and got paid fucking tap water and hot dogs. And then she drags me through family court on an application that was never fucking signed because she was scared I was going to come after her and go after half of that house when the value went up $800,000. That was never my intentions. And that's why I'm convinced what's been driven behind this fucking restraining order. To what? Protect me from litigation? I have not talked to this woman since April 8th, 2022, when I sent her an email and I said, hey, I moved out. The place is in perfect condition. Most people would have fucking trashed that place. Okay? I should have took pictures. And you know what? I wish I would have took pictures when I left, because this all started with a fraudulent home insurance claim that she got paid $10,000 for. I broke a $500 door. She admitted that she got a brand new $4,000 stove. And nobody wants to investigate. The Waterloo Regional Police don't want to investigate. That sergeant that I spoke to, that I filed a complaint against with Lika, which was a waste of time, she didn't want to enforce the law. This prosecutor's office, they don't want to enforce the law. What are we paying these people for? What are we paying these public servants hundreds of thousands of dollars a year when they don't want to do their basic duties? Okay? I lose this 2-day rig trial. Justice Ian Smith takes 98 days, and he waits till the Canada Day long weekend to surprise me and label me a vexatious litigant. So at this proceeding, John David Ekping demands $15,000. Now he has an opportunity to submit his cost. He asked for $70,000. You guys know that this lawyer has submitted almost $300,000 in fraudulent bills. This lawyer asked for $70,000. He puts on his cost 100 hours for preparing the application. The application was less than 10 pages, and most of it was copied and pasted. He spent 25 hours to review my materials when they were 3 pages and a bunch of pictures as exhibits. And then he spent 10 hours for a supplement affidavit that the court didn't even accept. Like, this needs to be investigated. The video, I would love the public, before it gets tampered with, because the court is refusing to release it. The public's going to see all my submissions, straight up. That's what I'm leading into right now, is my submissions, and how this judge is going to ignorantly write this endorsement and that's the honest truth, and make these statements saying that I started all these cases, I won't leave her alone, this and that. This is all bullshit. Wait till you guys see my evidence that I submitted. They would not let me drop any case at any point unless I gave into extortion. This judge is going to sit there, and mind you, this endorsement was available the same day. And then you get all these bullshit lies from the court. Oh, we're so backed up, we're so busy. They would take sometimes 6 weeks responding to me. But when this endorsement was released on that Friday of the long weekend, it was on Canly instantly. They made time for that. This is bullshit. I got dragged through this civil court. I took more beatings behind closed doors on an application that was left at my door. 3 senior judges, this was all brought into their attention. They ignored it. They ignored it because I believe this all falls on the family court endorsement, and they will not let me in. I believe that there's notes made about me to hurt me, and judges have already made up their mind before I get in front of them. Justice MacArthur had a pre-written 1,000-word endorsement, went on a rant about how a refugee and a hospital is getting surgery and the company they're suing, they're able to solve things, but we can't. This judge won't let me. This lawyer won't let me. Get in front of Justice Ian Smith, forces me to run the hearing alone. I told him I did not feel safe. I did not feel comfortable. And this is exactly why. Because I did not trust this judge, and I don't trust the other judges that I've gone before in this Kitchener-Waterloo courthouse. Because when the truth gets out to the public and there's an investigation, you guys are going to see that everything I've been saying all along has been the truth. And all this court did was take out one of Ontario's hardest working blue collar workers. And you want to put me on the street? You want to what? You want to make me go crazy and end up in a mental institution talking to myself because you guys think you're going to get away with what you've done to me? No. If this happened to me, think about how many other lives have been ruined. All this comes down to a family court. This all started in family court, a court I had no business ever being in. A court I was unlawfully dragged through, where judges blocked out transcripts, they deleted and altered endorsements, which is forgery. Anyone from the public did that, we would be charged. Why does a judge think they can do that? Justice Gibson and what he wrote on his endorsement for the family court thing, saying I emailed her, I called her, I was not a tenant, I breached my temporary restraining order. None of these things happened. Justice Gibson entertained a fraudulent bill of $160,000, knowing that they only paid $7,000 because he gave them shit at that trial, February 7th, February 8th, 2024, and said he would make note of it. He never did. I'm sorry, but our justice system is a disgrace. Our country's falling apart, and you got these public servants making collectively millions of dollars every year, and they're doing this to people. Media is too scared to talk about it. It's too controversial. When I have all the evidence and the facts to back up everything I've said is the truth. I've got nothing to gain to mislead or lie, but what this judge wrote on that endorsement just shows a pattern of the ongoing abuse that I've been taking from this Kitchener-Waterloo Superior Court. I wish the RCMP, I could trust the RCMP, they'd investigate the abuse. The Waterloo and Halton Region Police refused to charge this lawyer. Ty Gardner from Halton Region, there's a complaint against him, and how he's. I'm very disappointed in Halton Region Police because I'll be getting the whole video on that. But this vexatious litigant, man, this is absolute bullshit. I'm going to be putting up all the evidence in this video, and I want you guys to see this, see what they did to me, see what this lawyer got away with, see what my ex got away with. The evidence I got is so compelling. I'm going to leave the video at that. This is another video from Let's Talk About It. I was labeled a vexatious litigant against my ex and her lawyer, who won't leave me alone, who continue to threaten me with court proceedings. I was ordered to pay $35,000. Total rate now, I owe $110,000 in court costs. Interest is racking up like Vegas. This lawyer will not let me make payments. And then you got a judge sitting there saying I refuse to make payments, I haven't made payments, when he had all this evidence in front of him, me trying to drop cases and make payments. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe. Please help me get my story out to the public, and please help me get the truth out. Our country's in shambles, and this is a huge reason why. Thank you guys for watching.